Out of all the characters that we've been introduced to over this season of Fruits Basket, Aya probably has the biggest impression out of all the characters so far. This is a snake. The character is literally a snake, both within the personality as well as his zodiac form. He's charming, he's manipulative, he just has a little bit of everything that's both good and bad about a person, and I really enjoyed his character. I mean, you have a scene that technically is sexual harassment, but at the same time is pretty funny, and just to see where that intro goes over this episode, from a snake pretty much slithering up our girl's clothes to then just the conversations that occur from that point on to the very end. There's a lot to break down that's both funny but also pretty interesting development, both for Yuki on a backstory level, also where he could go in the future, and just where this new character could go over the course of this story. Aya is someone who both can say things that make you want to smack him, such as being like, hey, you're female, so get me some food, or wash the dishes. He's just very like, oh, you're the princess, but this is your gender, so this is what you have to do. And you want to smack him for it, but just the way he says it, there's like this level of confidence, but also believing that he's not saying something that's offensive, so you kind of want to forgive him, even though he should be smacked, and then he'll go and do things that are super sweet, like buy you dinner. I don't know what to think about this guy, and that's what I kind of love about Aya, because this is a character who clearly has a wedge between his brother, Yuki. As we learn in this episode, Yuki was a sickly child and was pretty much apparently quarantined, and really they didn't have too much of a connection in the past, and ultimately that made a wedge that, you know, eventually if you don't spend enough time with someone, naturally you just think that's the norm, and you don't really get that brotherly bond. And it's interesting to see how now that because I think he's like 10 years older than Yuki, now that he's older and a little wiser, even if he is a little childish with his personality, he sees that maybe he's trying to mend the mistakes in the past. But I like how in this episode, he doesn't just say like he's trying to make up for mistakes. It's almost like he's trying to justify his prior actions in the past and just kind of give himself peace of mind. I like how it's a little bit of a selfish but also not selfish request, and just to see how Toru can actually really help bring out the best, not only in someone like Aya, but just Yuki as well. It's pretty interesting seeing how it all plays out, because this is a character who's flamboyant, he's out there, he just has a personality that has a lot of charisma. He says things that you shouldn't be able to say with a straight face, but because he's a pretty boy, because he has the charisma, he can say these lines that somehow convince you to follow him to the ends of the earth. The fact that going to a pleasure house and just you can convince the staff, the students, the parents, that it's okay that they did this and that you can put all your lust into me, I'm the bottom in this relationship. This man said some shit I was not expecting, and I absolutely loved it because of that. He's a character who just speaks his mind, unfiltered, unhinged, but because he has a personality that just radiates charisma, because he is a good-looking guy, he naturally can convince people, and that's both a powerful weapon and also a dangerous one all at the same time, because he can do things, he can say things that will actually help people. Hell, he stops students from getting expelled, but at the same time, you can easily see how he could manipulate people in the wrong way. It's pretty interesting, especially for a character like Toru, who naturally just follows people, even when she shouldn't, as seen by Akito in the previous episode. It's interesting how she just kind of gets roped along in his kind of scheme of going out for dinner, and this easily could have been a horrible situation for her if it wasn't for Aya being sort of a decent guy at the end of the day. Granted, he says some things that are pretty questionable, but, you know, maybe he just needs someone to hold him back a little bit, as we see with Hattori, and how he's pretty much the only one he'll actually follow because he sees the qualities in a person that he wishes he has. It's just interesting how this episode was just, I kind of felt like pretty much every character in this episode minus Aya, because everyone just was shocked, in awe, deadpanned, pissed off. I was like, I'm just these characters right now. I have no idea what the hell I am watching, but I love this character. He's a snake, and what I would typically associate with the snake, if we were going to give a human a personality that matches the snake, is I would think something that's a lot more manipulative, something that's in the shadows. And his first real lines were him basically saying that she's female, so go make me dinner. So I was like, okay, yeah, he's definitely the snake. But then when you see how he actually gets explored, he just speaks his mind unfiltered and doesn't think things through. It's not even that he was like saying, you're female, go cook me. He was just like, hey, you're the princess, you live here, I'm hungry, go get me food. Oh, that's rude? Okay, I'll go buy you food. He's just someone who doesn't really think things through. He just says what comes to his mind right off the bat. And that allows for both funny, ridiculous, but also bad situations depending on the person. And I'm really looking forward to seeing more. Especially because, you know, they clearly have this wedge that they're trying to fix, or at least Aya is, and how he says what's on his mind, but it's so extreme, and especially for someone as young as Yuki, he just can't see that maybe they should kind of mend and maybe become brothers for once. But I do like how at the end of the episode, we see Haru, and just, it's that moment of thankfulness, like, thank you for looking out for me, and it's something that he sees the qualities in his brother, and maybe because of Toru's influence, he was actually able to put himself out there, which is something Yuki never would have done in the intro episodes to Fruits Basket. And it really shows the development, but also so much more just stories and characterization that we will explore over this story of Fruits Basket, and it was really impressive. There was a lot of funny moments throughout this episode, just having a snake who just, he doesn't have shame, he just radiates confidence. He can say whatever he wants, and just the shenanigans that will occur afterwards. I love the rage between Yuki and Kyo just being like, what the hell did you just do? You sexually harassed Toru? Get the hell out. And just to see how it just continued to escalate over this episode, I just had a grin on my face. This was a very funny episode. In terms of like being pure comedy, I think this had probably the best comedy throughout an entire episode. I still say last week had the funniest scene, but if we're looking at just like what episode overall just had back-to-back one-liners, this episode probably takes the cake. I still think last week was my favorite episode, but this one was just, I didn't know what I was expecting with a Snake Zodiac, and this just absolutely went past any expectations I could have. Even though I didn't know what I should expect, it was just, the personality just continued to escalate, and I thought he was going to be a very non-serious character, someone who was just like, didn't think things through, was pretty much just egotistical and just only cared for himself. But I do like how over this episode, even though he says things that can be offensive, I like how it's just because he speaks his mind, and really, there's only one person who can really hold him down, but maybe two, because Toru reminds him of basically the only person who he really kind of respects and really wants to imitate because he just sees him as being such a good person. It's interesting how this character can be so layered. There's so many layers to this character. I'd actually say Aya, in terms of an intro for his character, probably has the most layers I've seen for a character. Now, every character in Fruits Basket is multi-layered. They all have their issues, they all have their pros and their cons, but in terms of just showing their initial personality, this is the most layered personality I've seen, because someone who just says what's ever on the tip of his tongue is pretty fun. It allows for comedy, allows for serious, and allows for drama, and even though this episode was more comedy than anything, you can see how the way he presents his character could lead to some very bad scenes depending on the person. Like, just imagining this personality talking to Akito and saying the wrong things, it'd be interesting to see where that could go. I just thought this episode brought its A-game in terms of comedy direction. If there was so many basic shots, simplistic shots, and just pulling away and being as simple and chibi as possible, and it cracked me up because just seeing this personality and seeing these types of reactions, it just meshed one for one, and it really allowed for this to be a very charming episode overall. I love the voice acting for Aya. I just thought I was charmed by him, and I knew I shouldn't be charmed by him because some of the things he said was quite questionable, but I just kind of wanted to follow him through. I was like, you know what, yep, you're saying things you probably shouldn't, but maybe we would say if we were put in your situation. Sure, you say these ridiculous things, and I will support you even though I know I shouldn't. I love it when a character can be just so manipulative with his words without even trying to be. It's just because he just has a lot of charisma. He's a fun guy, and I really, really enjoyed that. He was just, oh man, this character was fun. I really hope we get to see a lot of him over the future. Due to the fact that he is his brother, Yuki's brother that is, I do expect we're going to see quite a bit with him in the future. Maybe not just back to back like we have with some of these characters, but the fact that we are getting a full adaptation, it does make me hopeful for this character. He's definitely one of the characters I'm looking forward to the most, and just, you know, coming off of last week, which did had, you know, my favorite comedy moment in Fruits Basket, but also the most serious and dramatic. It's nice to kick off into this episode, see the potential for dramatic, see the potential for very sad backstory, but just have fun with a personality that is just so radiant, and just, he makes you just smile, be embarrassed, get a little flustered alongside the characters, and just how they explore these reactions overall. It was very charming. I really, really enjoyed this episode. It was funny as hell. I can't believe how Fruits Basket can continue to basically just shift up the style so much, but still keep it feeling like the Fruits Basket that we've come to expect. Introduce a character who just goes against everything that we've come to expect with this series, but still make it feels like Fruits Basket, but also a completely different ballgame in terms of the comedy direction. I thought this was a great episode, not only just having fun scenes, but also exploring just how they can really shake up what we know about Yuki, how give him a little bit of personality kind of growth here, allowing him to put himself out there and thank people who are looking after him, even if they don't really match his own personality. You're just seeing so much potential for future story arcs while just really having fun with this current one, and just to see how you couldn't shake this guy until one person comes in. It's just, there's so many stories you could tell, both positive and negative, with this personality, and I'm incredibly excited for more. This was a hilarious episode of Fruits Basket, one of the stronger comedy episodes for sure, but I'm interested, for anyone who watched the original anime, read the original manga, or are anime originals like myself, what did you think of this week's episode of Fruits Basket, the new character we got introduced to? Were you a fan of him in the original? How do you like his kind of portrayal in this new version? Let me know down in that comment section below. If you did enjoy this video though, be sure to drop a like and also hit that subscribe button if you haven't been new. So until next time everyone, please take care and have a good one.